These walls, like a whitish beige, kind of like an off-white dealio here. So what we're going to be doing is we need to white balance these. Especially this one. This one's way too cool, and then this one is way too warm. This one is giving me some really nice light. I like that. We've got our window exposure and our base ambient. Okay. All right. So if you hit W on the keyboard, you bring up your white balance eyedropper. It's a lot easier than actually going in and manually adjusting your temperature and tint. So let's go ahead and just do that. And I'll bring it up just a smidge, just to keep the warmth in there. I do think the exposure is a little bit too dark. So I'm gonna bring that up about half a stop for this one frame. Gonna keep white balancing here. This will be a good base considering how flat everything is lit. And then this is gonna be for really adding some nice depth and quality of light to everything. Got our window exposure here, which is far, far too dark. One thing that I've been doing for window exposures, just to get them a little bit more even with the rest of the image, is that I'll bring down the whites and then I'll bump up the blacks. Really flattens everything out. And I'll show you when we get into Photoshop what I can do to kind of even that out with contrast and levels. Don't really care about the white balance of this shot, but if it's too off, I'll generally switch the white balance preset to auto. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and open these as layers in Photoshop. My basic blending for pretty much everything real estate related is just to add a layer and then fill it, add a layer mask and then fill it with 50% gray. It's an incredibly easy blending technique that solves just about 90% of my problems. All right, so we've got our left half and then our right half. I have a couple of presets here. I'll include them because I have included them before, but I don't think any of the links that I have on previous videos are actually functional because I did make some changes in my Dropbox. All right, let's go ahead and press play. Super easy. Now we just, excuse me here, one sec. I accidentally blended with luminosity. I don't want to do that. We just want to do a really basic 50% gray blend in normal. There we go. And then I believe this is our flat. Coolio. And I do these just to basically create a real quick base. There's not really much I'm doing here in terms of brushing. All right, here's where the change comes in. Blend ambient, 50% gray. That is basically the same as what we've been doing, except for the ambient layer. Since we don't really want to use any of the color in this shot, we switch the blend mode to luminosity. That way, we're only taking the brightness values of the ambient layer, but using all the color of the flash layers. Now, I'm going to temporarily turn this off and go back to our initial blend. So with a brush, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. I'm going to switch to black and just brush out those areas where the flash is visible. Super, super simple. Perfect. Now I'm going to switch over to a lower flow. So I'm going to go with 25. Same black paintbrush. Just going to brush over any highlights that I consider to be just a little too dark. Or excuse me, too bright. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of this shadow here caused by our flash. So I'm just going to paint white, add a little bit of ambient in that spot. And overall, I think that looks really nice. Now, depending on how you prefer your windows, you could pretty much be done with your blend. I'm going to go the extra mile and show you what I do for certain instances where I want the windows to be darker and there isn't a frame dedicated to a darken mode window pull. So basically we're stuck with this situation here. All right. I'm going to go over to our paths panel. If you don't know where that is, you see how you have layers here, and then to your right you have channels, and to your right again, paths. Click the plus sign down here, create a new panel. Excuse me, we're going to create a new path. And to get to your pen tool, P on the keyboard will bring it up, or you can just click over here on your toolbar to bring up your pen tool. Now, by default, your pen tool is not going to have your rubber band turned on. I find this to be very helpful in lining up edges on certain objects. I'll show you that just in a second. All right. This is going to be really easy. We're just going to create a pass where we have a real basic understanding of what we need cut out. Now, when you use the pen tool, you don't need to connect the starting point and the end point together if the path is going to be perfectly straight with what you're cutting out. So when I am through getting to about this point here, I hit escape. That finishes the path. Now we're getting to more complex shapes. Now, anywhere where there's what you would consider to be a drastic curve in an object, I put a point there. Okay? And then I do that till I finish where I'm going. You see this? It'll make sense when we get to the second pass of clipping. But right now we're just making a basic set of cutouts. All right, if you ever need to add a path within a path, what you're gonna want to do is you want to have your path make an intersection. Okay. Best way to do that is just add another path into there. You don't have to create a new path in your path panel to add an intersecting path. All right, now that we have our basic cutout for the windows, the second part of clipping is essentially just adjusting curves. So instead of having straight lines, we curve these out. So the easiest way to do this is to hit Control, click on your path to activate it. And then if you hover over the area of the path where you want to add a point, you'll get a plus sign alongside your regular pen tool icon. So you're going to want to left click, and to move this path, hit Control, left click, and then you can move it wherever you want. Now, automatically, when you add those points, you'll get these anchors here where you can adjust the curve. Now, I don't want to adjust both curves at the same time. I want to align one side and then adjust another curve independently of this curve. So hold down Alt and then click. Now you can adjust that anchor point independently. All right, I think we have our path completed. Now then, we just want to add the pen tool to its own path mask, okay? That makes sense. Hold down Control, add a layer mask. That'll add your pen tool path without making an unnecessary layer mask. Okay. I want to adjust the path feather. Because right now, if we look, our edges are quite sharp. Double click on your path. I guess you can just single click it. Double clicking is for layer mask. I'm gonna adjust the feather. One seems pretty all right. Now, I think there's a huge issue here in terms of brightness to this side. I want these walls to match more. Let me add a layer mask. Excuse me, not a layer mask. A layer adjustment in terms of curves. Now, I don't want to adjust the entirety of the image. I just want to adjust the layer that's directly underneath. See this button right here? The square, the arrow pointing down? That clips it to whatever's underneath. All right. This here looks fine to me. I just don't like it anywhere else. So I'm going to invert it and then use a brush and paint white over here. Beautiful. Just taking a look around to see what else I need to do here. I know I need to do this TV and then finish up in Lightroom. Let's create a new layer, completely blank layer. Now for TVs, where I don't really care too much about keeping a path, I generally just make a path and then immediately turn that into a selection. So to do that, Control, Shift, Enter will turn your pen tool path into a selection. From here, we can do the same thing that we did with our pen tool path and feather it by 1 pixel. All right. Just to keep things simple here, I'm going to change my preset for a blank TV. I'm going to go with a brightness of 5 for my darkest point and a brightness of 20 for my brightest point. I'm going to call this blank TV screen and click new. Just so I don't have to create this every time I want to put a blank TV screen in. Beautiful. I think that's just about everything. I'm going to create a saved copy of that. I usually keep the layered versions just in case I need to go back and make adjustments to a specific layer or group of layers. All right. Back in Lightroom. Before I make any global adjustments to tone, I just want to straighten this up. All right. Let's line that up here. And then down here where it's not so distinguished in terms of horizontal lines, I'll use this rug. Perfect. And over here, I think I'll use this reflection. And then the TV. It's a little slanted. I'm not sure I like this. on that side. I'll use this window. Much better. All right. We're looking a little bit flat. I don't think we have enough contrast. Beautiful. A little bit bright in the highlights. Clarity. Just a smidge. I don't want it to look too grungy. Give it some vibrance for the real estate agents. HSL. No, I think it's the oranges. Yeah, orange is just a little bit too hot. And now, sharpening. Zoom in here. I don't want to go too much. I don't want too little. 72. Okay. Do a little bit of masking here. Just so we're not affecting areas that don't need to be sharpened. Like the wall, for instance. Noise reduction, I don't think we need to do a ton. Or at all. Beautiful. Looks pretty good. I'd say that's a finished shot.